Good morning. Here I am again doing my daily morning read. I'm going to use the Osho Zen Tarot deck again today. Such fun. So it's a gray day here on November 13th in Michigan. Kind of feeling a little not quite up to par. I don't know. A little overstressed maybe. So let's see what the cards, the universe, have to tell us today. What is our message? I feel all butterfingery today. I do still like this deck for the size. It's a nice size, but like I said, it's not a deck that I've been working with lately, so there you go. It is the 17. Oh, remember that they use rainbows, clouds, rainbows, clouds, is it fire? They use different symbolism in this one. So, oh, and look at that. The Master, which I think is actually the Fool in this deck. But it looks like I have some really big cards in here. There's no just numbered cards. It's either court card. I got one court card, and I got the Major Arcana, which Major Arcana is bigger life things. It's not just the day-to-day, it's sort of a bigger life thing. So that's what we're going to read in this message here. It looks like the Wheel of Fortune, which we've had before. The Fool. I believe this might be the Star, but we'll look and see. Like I said, I'm not as familiar with this deck. I just started using it again. Didn't really care for it when I used it the first time. Probably not quite ready for it. So, alrighty then. Alrighty then. I say that a lot. Alrighty then. Here we are. So I went through and did my reading on these cards this morning. Quite a handful to take in, which I'm not. So the first one is silence, and it is reminiscent of the Star card, turning inward, finding that inner silence that'll bring, that moon goddess, that moonlight reflecting. There's that sense of a deep peace, and a really deep understanding of things. It's that subconscious sort of thing, and that inner silence helps you connect to the energy of the whole, this whole thing that we're part of, the universe, and it brings like a Buddha-like understanding, that enlightenment sort of way, in a still sort of very grounded way. So this is coming home to yourself, to find silence, and either if you can find silence with another, or to enjoy your own aloneness in that silence. It's really hard for us in this day and age to stay silent by ourselves with each other. We have so much nowadays to be able to entertain us, to keep our minds in motion, to keep our thoughts outside of ourselves, and really all of our work is inner work. We have to turn inward, and it's in that silence that you do that, in that meditation, in that time alone, or with people that you can spend together alone. There are people that'll help support your silence as you go through it. So it's a really important card to remember that there's nothing to do, there's no place to go. It was a thing that a lot of times just before Shavasana and yoga, there's nothing to do, there's no place to go. And to keep that mind here in this moment, in that inner silence and that peace and meditation. And that's hard to do. The next one is more morality. It's the Queen of Clouds. And here, reminds me of the one card we had yesterday, where she is so set in her morality, it's either this or it's that, it's good or it's bad, it's moral or it's immoral, that she is actually rigidly structured. It's black or it's white. And all of this sort of puts a veneer. She stopped the flow of her life and has put this rigid structure around her. I mean, you can even see in the bindings here, it looks like she is rigid, and everything, once again, the same pointing downward, that she's just so rigid, and she thinks that by conforming to this shape that it'll make things better, it'll be easier, but she's actually constricting her flow of energy, being so set in her ways, in this way or that way. And this is a morality that comes out of condition. It comes from outside of herself. It's the way that she grew up, the way, that society has told her this is it, black or white, and this is what her filters have brought her to, that is so tight in those ways that she doesn't flow. There is no flow. And that's sort of a false morality, that doesn't give you in a full awareness when you come in with, all these other shades of gray. So it's a card to remind us that the world isn't just black or white, this or that. It is not the conditioning that came from outside of us, is something that we need to look at and once again turn inward and find that silence to gain that awareness, so that you flow with life instead of rigidly constricting yourself into basically a cage. So the next one is Change, which is a Wheel of Fortune card. And although last time the Wheel of Fortune told us that you can't control everything, there are some things that are just out of your control. This one it brings sort of the same message. It still talks of fate and karma, which karma isn't necessarily out of your control, but fate they bring them the thoughts of being something that the person themselves can't control. And the wheel reminds us in these two, with karma especially, that life repeats itself, and it mindlessly repeats itself. And unless you can become mindful of that pattern, you mindlessly repeat it. And so that you can't get out of whatever stuck pattern you're in, and maybe that keeps bringing the same situations to you or the same feelings to you. And you probably, you know those people, I don't know why these things keep happening to me. And it's because of the mindlessness of the pattern. And patterns repeat. If you keep a diary of your feelings or your days and stuff, you will see your patterns start showing up. That you have your ups and your downs, and that's life. We need to all have them, but they are ups and downs. But there are, we shouldn't be so, up and down. And we do follow a pattern, a rut. And once you can see it, once you know that this is your pattern, when I watch TV, I always eat food, whether I'm hungry or not. That's a pattern. And once you see it, you can get out of that pattern. You can make a change, but you have to take time to notice what your patterns are so that you can slowly, break those patterns and make new habits and make new healthier patterns for life to bring you joy and happiness. So, and then today I also got the Master card. This is an added card to this deck. Beyond, it was put in, it shows up in the book at the end of the major arcana. So after the world and all that, the Master comes. And this really is, it's funny, it's the shadow card, because this isn't something that the ego mind wants to know, because this card gives that message that what we consider our mind is our is that place that we need to be able to step back and see that our mind is, in the bigger picture outside, it's our servant, that in our ways that our mind is to serve us as we are in this body, to do these things. But most of the time our mind is our master, that we go with the ideas, the feelings and stuff. We let our mind dictate how we feel instead of feeling and then controlling the mind. And in self-mastery and in an enlightened self, which I am by no means there, I have not met in real life a truly enlightened person, but in that enlightened state, and when you step back from the mind and you can start seeing more from that, where you are that master of your mind, seeing from the whole, then you can start living in a joyous, because you can start seeing the patterns that your mind brings up for you. And it's at that point too where people are drawn to you because of your presence in that state of enlightenment. And there is so much to share. There's so much help that we can do, even if we're not enlightened. We all have something that we can share. And then, how do you get to that point of being a master? And really, it's the meditation. And to keep moving, to keep going in that meditation, to always move forward, always try to become better. And we are all working towards this state. It's hard to imagine being fully enlightened, but to keep motion going and to keep, doing and being, not to be, sedient. And I know it says meditation to get there, but there are many forms of meditation. So we have one image of meditation, but there are many meditations out there. And it's bringing that awareness to the moment, to being able to identify your mind speak and your spiritual being, wholeness, enlightened speak, being coming through. So it's a very deep card, and one that we all hope to attain someday. So the overall message that I get now that we've gone through the cards is that inner silence again. I get a lot of cards lately about turning inward, so I really need that inner silence coming in, which is going to be hard this weekend. We have a vendor show, so I will be outer talking and doing things, and to remember that things aren't so black and white. The idea of the black and white rigidness, like, where am I rigid in that black and whiteness? And is that something given to me by my raising, by the conditioning of how I grew up and where I live and the people that surround me, that when I do follow such a rigidness, that the flow is gone, the flow of the life energy, and then it's funny that rigidness stays long enough, and you can start feeling it in your body, that lack of life flowing through your chakras and things like that. You'll start feeling it physically even, and very close, it reminds you to flow. And the change card, that, identify your patterns, make the change, to step out of your patterns, the same turning of that wheel, the mindlessness of what you're doing. Do you mindlessly go through these things? And that goes for everything, Do you mindlessly wash dishes? Do you mindlessly drive your car? And we can all admit that we do at that point, but we have to remember that we need to bring awareness to every moment. Every moment can be a meditation. So to be aware of that. And then with the Master card is just using meditation to gain the enlightenment, to start walking closer to becoming enlightened, to give freely, to be joyous, to find beauty, to work through, you know, your patterns and, you know, your rigidness and things like that, to become one that flows with the energies. So, still some, you know, a lot of same themes that show up. It's a very blue purpley day, except for this rigid, you know, it's like pressure in that area where she's so tightly held, you know. And even in yoga, they tell you not to hold so tightly, to relax into the pose. And here, there is no relaxing. And relaxing is important. So, alrighty. Well, before I ramble on into other subjects, and then all of a sudden I got a half an hour video, thank you for watching.